Welcome back to this episode of the Jaren Star Show. We're going to teach you guys how to manage your money and build extreme wealth through investing in real estate, all while continuing to work your job, raise your family, and while living your busy life. I'm busy. I don't know about you. I'd imagine you are, or at least you think you are, because we all think we're pretty darn busy. And so I want to teach you guys how you can change your life, even while all that's going on. I'm your host, Jaren Star. I'm coming to you live from Anderson, South Carolina. And I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I think I got my software fixed this time where I got the right microphone coming through, so the audio should sound better. I think the video is working how it should be, and we should be able to rock and roll now. So all the listeners who listen to this on podcast after it's been pre-recorded, we do this show live now. And so I try to make it a great experience for both the live people and those of you who listen later. But today has been a bittersweet day for me. So it's been bitter because my truck did not start while I was at the grocery store this morning. So I was on the way to a meeting around 10 o'clock this morning, went to Ingles, cut my car off, went inside, got what I needed to get, came back out to my truck, and it wouldn't crank. You know why? Because my battery was absolutely toast. So what do I have to do? I have to call my beautiful wife who's at home with our 4 children. They're 2, 4, 6, and 8, and say, can you load up the car and come jump me off at the Ingles gas station? Because I'm an idiot. And I was supposed to replace this battery last week. Didn't. Between cold weather and the battery being 5 years old, now it's absolutely toast. And so my wife was gracious enough, because I couldn't find anybody in the gas station parking lot to help me out, to come jump me off. And I got it, rock and rolled. I still haven't bought the battery yet. The place I'm going is 5 minutes from my office here in Anderson. So hopefully it'll start back up after I get done talking with you guys today, and I will get a new battery for my truck. But the sweet part of today, and you guys, if you listened to the episode earlier this week, know where we are a day away from snow here in Anderson, South Carolina. So I think it's been 1,076 days since we've received snow. So when we get snow here, it's a big deal. All the schools are shutting down. There's going to be no schools tomorrow, right? We're not even going to get 2 inches, but it's a big thing. We're shutting the schools down. We got the sleds out. You got to go get bread and milk 3 days ago, because it's all going from the grocery store today, because people think the apocalypse is going. Everybody's buying generators. It's crazy. Those of you who are listening from the Northeast and Midwest, you are probably like, what in the world is going on, bro? We'll get a foot of snow and we're still out of school. Well, we're not as tough as you guys down here in the South. But anyways, it's a great day in Anderson, South Carolina. Although my truck pretty much broke down, and we got snow coming tomorrow. I'm excited to be hanging out with you guys. And I was reminded of a story recently that I experienced when I worked at Centos. So when I first got out of college, I graduated. I got to play baseball at a school called Charleston Southern University. It was an absolute blast. I loved it. Got to be a team captain. It was Division I. I always wanted to play Division I baseball. Had a good career, but wasn't good enough to play pro. And so at some point I was like, well, I guess I got to get a job. I think my mom was worried about me getting a job, because I was kind of just like chilling for a few months after I graduated, like working baseball camps. But I eventually, nonetheless, got a job at this uniform company called Centos. And so my job was essentially wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, drive to the plant, and then load up my truck. So I had this big box truck. I loaded up, and then I'd go out for the next, call it 10 to 12 hours, and I would deliver clean uniforms. I would pick up customers' dirty uniforms. I would deliver floor mats. I would deliver urinal cakes. All the guys, if you're ever standing up taking a piss in the urinal, the little things that sit in the bottom of it that make it smell better, I'd pick up the dirty ones and throw them in the trash. Paper towels, air fresheners, all this different stuff. And so it was a lot of work. It was great for somebody coming out of college like myself, who loves the routine, was disciplined, learned how business worked, got to, understand a lot about business. But there was one day, and you have to remember, at this time I was 22 years old. I was so confident that I was on the side of cocky. And so I could see where folks maybe would be a little intimidated by me, or more so, they didn't even like me. And so a lot of times the way I acted back then, it was a bad thing. But in this particular case, my zest ended up working out for me. So there was this customer. It was a large trash service. If I said their name, you guys would know them. They're all over the country. And they were located in Charleston, and they were all in my route. Okay. So my job wasn't to make big sales of new equipment. So I could like add on little sales items that like from my route, like an air freshener or paper towels or whatever. But if somebody was buying a big thing of boots or new uniforms or whatever, there was like a different salesperson for that. And so these salespeople within our organization have been working to close this large boot deal for, I mean, it was going to be huge. It was for the entire trash plant. They've been working on this thing for 2 years and they couldn't get it done. And so I actually was back from my route one day and I'm in the office doing my paperwork, getting ready to go home. And I hear them talking about how they can't get this deal done. They've been working on it for almost 2 years. And so I'm 33 at the time of this recording. At the time of when this happened, I would have just turned 22. Okay. So this is over a decade ago. But I thought I was something. So I walk in there. I say, y'all can't close this boot deal? And they kind of, here's the new guy, young guy. No, we're going to get it working on it. How about this? I'll close this boot deal by the end of the week. I'll have a purchase order. The deal is you got to give me half of your commission. So I'm just coming up with this off of my head, like out of nowhere, not thinking that they'll really let me do it. Bro, they kind of hem and haw for a second. It's the service manager and it's the inside sales rep. And the inside sales rep looks at me and goes, you know what? Fine. You got a deal. Now, he did say, this showed me his insecurity. He's like, if you win it, I'll split the commission with you, but I don't want to hear you going around saying, oh, I had to go close Josh's deal for him, blah, blah. He was like real worried about that. Didn't want the GM finding out that I said, dude, you don't have to tell a soul. It's good enough for me just to be able to say that I went and closed this deal and you couldn't. I'll know it internally and I'll get half of your money. And so I'm broke I think my salary is like $40K, right? And I got $65,000 of student loan debt. I was like, hey, anything for an extra buck. So I remember I go to this trash service the next day, driving this box truck, and I'm like, God, now I gotta close this deal. I'm really gonna look like an idiot. So I roll in. This is this big dude who was my contact. He was scary, man. He had this massive office, deep voice, like very methodical. And I don't remember all the details, but I remember sitting down with him and saying, hey, will you tell me a little bit about where you guys have been on this journey? I just heard the guys talking and, they said you are having trouble coming to agreement. I was like, dude, I work with these guys every week. I'm at their location. Let me just go talk to them, see if I can figure out, if I can help them out. And that's what I told the guy my story was. And I said, so here I am. I just want to see if I can help get the deal done because you guys are my customers. And I want to take care of you. And he said, blah, 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 the price, and they were off. He's like, it's too expensive. We're not wanting to pay this amount. We can look at other companies and they're giving us this discount and we're gonna be able to get for this amount. And so I said, okay, is it just price for you? He said, yeah. I said, okay, let me make a couple phone calls real quick. Let me see what the deal is internally with price. Let me come back to you. He said, all right. And so I go back and I call my managers and I say, hey, it's just a pricing. We're only off by a couple $1,000s. I think the whole deal was 30 or 40 grand. I was like, is there a way we can come down on this particular boot, or is there another boot that I could offer that's less expensive but give us more profit? And they were like, as a matter of fact, if you could convince him to buy this different style of boot, it's going to be cheaper for him, but it's going to be more profit for us. And so I'm like, okay, well, let me go shoot my shot. And so I walk back into this guy's office. I said, here's the deal, man. I talked with him. It's just the margins on us trying to come down anymore on the boot that y'all been talking about. It's impossible. But there's another boot right here. It's just as good, or I didn't say it like that's not the way you want to say it, Excel. But I started explaining to him what the boot was. I'm like, bro, you're going to be able to save whatever the cost was, like $100 per boot. And we're talking hundreds of people. And I could see his head spinning. He said, what's the best you can do for me? Like, is that the best you can do? I said, well, let me make some phone calls again. So I go out again. I'm like, I feel like a used car salesman. Let me talk to my manager. I had no idea what I'm doing. I'm 22 years old. And so I call him. I'm like, hey, he's trying to beat me up on price. So they're like, okay, we can go to what X amount discount on the different boot that you've got him convinced on and still have a better profit. You can go to this amount. I said, okay. And before I went back in, the best thing I did is I called my uncle. So my uncle at the time, it was a pastor. He's still a pastor to this day. But back in the day, before he was a pastor, he was a top sales rep, actually in a uniform company. I said, all right, Scott, dude, what do I do here? Like, I told him what's at stake. I was like, these guys can't get the deal done. If I get it done, I get half their commission. I really could use half their commission. I've convinced this guy to change boots. Now he's beat me up on price some more. My manager told me I can go down a little bit in price. What do I do? Scott said, all right, here's what you do. You take a piece of paper, right? Get a piece of paper and you write down where you started. Show the cost of what that first boot was. Then under that, show him, okay, but we switched to this boot. So already we're going to save you X amount. So you started here. Now you're already saving him a huge amount by switching boots. Then say, plus I just went back and fought for you, dude. I'm not even supposed to be on this thing. I just want to take care of my customer. I went back and fought for you and we got an additional amount off. So we started here. We're down here, now here, and you're saving whatever the number was, $3,000. Scott said, do that. And then slide it over to him and say, can we get the deal done today? And then don't say a word. That's what Scott told me to do. Be quiet. He said, now, a couple of things are going to happen. He's either going to take it, which is not likely, and say, hey, let's go ahead and do the deal right now. Or he's going to say, all right, let me run it up the chain and see if I can get the deal done. Now, here's the key, and you got to be very, very, very careful with how you do this. When he says, or if he says, I need to take this to my superior and get clearance for it, I want you to press against his ego a little bit and act shocked that he isn't the decision maker, because you've told me that he's this big, bad, tough guy. He tries to act scary, but now he's having to go ask somebody else. What it'll do is it'll make him want to get the deal done more because you're pushing against his perceived authority. And I'm like, bro, dude, I'm 22 years old. You really think this is going to work? Like, the dude's not going to come across the desk and just punch me in the face. He's like, no, just do it. Just do it strategically. Don't be a jerk. I said, okay. So, bro, my heart's racing at this point. I'm sitting in my little truck outside. I'm like, all right, I'm going back in. Whatever the guy's name was, roll back in his office. I do what Scott tells me. Take it, and I show him where we're at. Turn and say, can we get a deal done today? And he does exactly like Scott anticipated. He picks it. We said, all right, I appreciate what you've done for us, Jaren. Let me run this up the chain, take this to my boss, and see if I can get it done. And just immediately, I blurted out, because I couldn't contain myself, because I was waiting for this moment. I said, boss, boss, you got to take this to your boss. It was kind of like Allen Iverson with his practice. We're talking about practice. I was like, I said, boss, bro, whatever his name was. I was like, but I thought you were the boss this whole time. I was like, I thought I was talking to the guy who could sign the paper and make the decision. Oh, I can't. I am the boss. I just got to go get finance to sign off on it. You'll get a PO in the next day or two. I don't have to get it approved. I'll get it done. And it was amazing. Like, it worked. I was like, I was so nervous. I'm like, boss, thought you were the big guy in charge. And I didn't know how he was going to react. And he reacted the right way, saying, I am. I just got to go get it signed off on. No lie. Guy calls me the next morning, says, Jaren, I got your purchase order sitting here. I told you I could make the decision. And I drive back over to Dorchester Road to this garbage company in Charleston, South Carolina, pick up his PO, drive it back to the location, because that was a Friday, because I had them on my route on a Thursday. So he calls me Friday morning. I go out of my way to get it. I'm fired up. Drive back to the plant, grab the purchase order, slam it on the inside sales doors desk. And I say, what took you 2 years took me a day. Let me get half that commission. Bro, to this day, it is one of the greatest moments of my life in the working world. One of the absolute greatest moments in my life. Now, some lessons learned from that, guys, is don't be a douche about it. I was an absolute punk the entire journey, because I was 22 years old and I wanted to prove myself. There's no reason to do that. But I think it is good to be serious for a second, to find a way to prove yourself, to push yourself. That was not comfortable for me. Today, I can sell any product in any environment, one-on-one, to a large group, from a stage, from a webinar. I mean, you name it. I'm very, very comfortable with it. But I wasn't at the moment back in 2013. And so I put myself in a position to either, hey, I'm going to crush this and people are going to be proud of me, or, hey, I'm going to fail and I'm going to look like a loser, but hopefully I'm going to learn a lot along the way. And so I got reminded of that story this week, and I figured I would share that with you guys. But, some people, you talk about sales and they're like, I can never do sales. Listen to me. If you're breathing and you're alive, you're in sales. My children, my 2, 4, 6, and 8-year-old, try to sell me thousands of times per day. They're in sales. If you have a desk job, I promise you, you're in sales. You're convinced your husband, your wife, your friends, you're always trying to convince people. And so I think that being able to persuade people is one of the most powerful skills that we can possess as a human being. And then this is a whole different conversation. I'm not going to get into it today. Then the ethics that come with that. Zig Ziglar does a great job of talking about this. If you guys ever want to go down a rabbit trail of learning about sales, start with Zig Ziglar's books, because Zig Ziglar was a believer and he tends to do things the right way. Now, no man's perfect, but Zig teaches once you learn to persuade people and you learn to sell people, it's almost like an MMA fighter or UFC fighter. Say once they learn to fight, bro, they can't be like throwing hands with the random dude on the street because they're going to kill him because it's a weapon. That's the same thing when you learn to persuade. Is you have to do it for good, but it is a very good skill to learn because it allows you to make income. And so if you can sell, then you can always generate income. You're already going to be selling in your personal life anyway. So go learn how to do it. And, little negotiation tips like that help. The moral behind that story from a sales perspective, and this can work in, getting deals, when you're trying to manage your money, or this can come when you are buying real estate deals, is the whole mental, game we were playing there was showing him where we started. So showing a high price anchor. Hey man, look at how much you were going to pay when our guys first came in here. And then where you guys work to today, and like dropping that price and then making them feel as though they did all of that. That was the psychology behind that. It was like I let him feel as though he pushed that price down by additional 10 to 15 grand, whatever the number was. He did it. He can take that, right? Because what we're trying to do is give that person power to then be able to tell a story to the person above them who's going to allow them to pull the trigger. So he can take that. He now has power to go to his superior and say, hey, look, Stryker was going to charge us, $25,000-$30,000 for this boot deal, or Centos is going to charge us whoever $20,000-$30,000 for this boot deal. And I knocked it down another $10,000. I think we need to pull the trigger on this. I did it. Now he looks good, but in reality, I won. They won because they got a good deal for what they thought was a good deal. I got a good deal because I was able to drop the total amount of money they spent, but increase the company's profit, and it's a win-win. And so learning little tips and tricks like that could be very helpful. And then pushing on the ego side, that's a little more advanced tip that I got away with at such a young age. But when somebody is really egotistical and they think they're in charge and they think they are the best, because you guys are going to see this out in the real world, or you're going to see this when you're negotiating for real estate deals. It's good to just gently, not as abruptly as I did, I got lucky, but gently nudge on that ego side. So a lot of times you want to feed into it, make them feel really, really good, because their favorite topic is them. And then when they can't make a decision, kind of push against them, be like, are you sure you got as much power as you thought you did? And so those are two negotiation tips that can help you when in the sales world. All right. So I got a question. Actually, I have received this question in the last, how many days? 6, maybe 5 days, from 2 people. And I'm sure I'll get it again because it's one I get often, is, am I ready to invest in real estate? Am I ready to invest in real estate? How do I know financially that I am ready to invest in real estate? And I think it's a good question. I think it's a valid question. And I think it's a question that we all need to know the answer to. Okay. So I tell people, if you are broke, you do not deserve to invest in real estate. Broke people haven't paid their dues and they're not allowed to invest in real estate, in my opinion. So what do I mean by that? If you're broke, well, if you're drowning in consumer debt, and you can't even make your consumer debt payments because you're living paycheck to paycheck, real estate should not be on your radar right now. The only thing that should be on your radar is, how do I get rid of this consumer debt? Or if you don't have enough money to even make the payments of your consumer debt, you need to go to, all right, let me create a budget real quick and cut, because this will take 10 minutes, cut all the junk expenses that I have. And then step 2 for you would be, how do I increase my income so that I can have extra money to go and pay off this debt? Listen, so many people don't want to sacrifice now. They don't. They want somebody to give them a handout or take care of them. Listen, if you want a good life, you're going to have to pay now if you want to play later. If you play now and you neglect all the bad decisions you made financially and let that consumer debt build over time, you're going to be paying for the rest of your life. Look, not to toot my own horn, I'm just trying to teach you guys from what I've done in my life. My entire working career, from the day I started working at Centos, maybe not the day, but call it a month after, I have always had a second source of income. Every single job along the way. At Centos, my second source of income is I would go and I would deliver fruit for this fruit company who would drive in a refrigerated truck into Charleston on whatever day it was, Tuesdays, and I'd just go deliver it out. I'd put my dog in the car and I'd drive for 8 hours. And I made extra, I don't know, 60 to $100 a week. Right. And then my next job, when I was in pharmaceutical sales, I had a pressure washing company. And then I also sold hospital software on the side. And then in my next job, I started buying real estate, and that was my side gig, and flipping houses and doing what was originally the Finance Cowboy brand, now Jaren Sustar and the Jaren Sustar Show. And so my entire life, I've always done extra that's allowed me to get ahead financially. I mean, it's a very basic principle. I'm sure there's a physics law. I don't know what you put in, you're going to get out. Right. And so if you're not putting in the extra work, if you're not going the extra mile, you're not working the extra job, not generating extra income, then you're going to have a very, very hard time accomplishing a lot in life, because your income is the fuel that is going to dictate how fast you reach financial income or financial independence. The amount of income you have coming in is going to dictate how fast you can achieve the financial status that you are looking to achieve. And so when people say, hey man, I'm broke, I really want to get in this game, can you help me? Because they'll hear me talk about, sometimes it's misleading, and I apologize if this comes across as misleading. I want to clear something up. When I say you can buy real estate using other people's money, this doesn't mean that you can be broke and then go use other people's money and buy real estate. Listen, when we're using somebody else's money to buy real estate, we want to be very, very careful, and we didn't know how to manage money, because that's not even our money. And so if you're over here saying, dude, I'm drowning in debt, I can't make my payments, I'm living paycheck to paycheck, you're never going to hear me tell you, okay, yeah, you can't manage your own money, but why don't you go borrow $150,000 from your uncle or your cousin or your friend or your dad or whoever, a investor or a company, because I feel comfortable you'll be able to manage that. You can't even take care of your own house. You are doing a disservice to the person that you partner with if you can't take care of your own crap and then you go buy their money, or you go borrow their money. Because what happens when we borrow other people's money is it doesn't feel quite as tangible. Why? Because there wasn't pain behind earning it. Right? It's almost like monopoly money. It feels free, especially if you're an undisciplined person with your capital. And what you're going to do is you're going to end up getting yourself into a deeper hole of debt, and you're going to screw some people over, and you're going to absolutely kill relationships. And then ultimately what you'll do is you'll destroy your reputation. And guess what happens once your reputation's gone? Done. You're done. You're done in the business world. You're done in the investment world. You're going to move town. You ever see those people who leave, one part of the country and move to the other where they don't know anybody? Most of the time, it's because they've made so many bad decisions, they've absolutely obliterated their reputation. And God has given us a few things that are very holy in this life. And I think one of them is your name and what people think about you. When they hear your name, they automatically, they can think you're mean, or they can think, you're kind of cocky, or you're meek, or you're mild, but they better think at all those things. That Jaren guy, he's trustworthy. He does what he says. If I give him this, he tells me he's going to give this back, I can guarantee that no matter what, come hell or high water, it's going to happen. And so we have to make sure that we are protecting our name and we're doing the right things at all time. And also for a moral reason. I mean, you just don't do bad things. Be a good person. Outside of not being able to do business later, let's just talk about your soul in eternity, right? Because we're only on this earth for a very short amount of time. What's going to happen to your soul when we leave this earth? Because we're only here for just a blink of an eye. So what makes you ready to invest in real estate? I say, in my opinion, it is in today's market, you almost, and I don't want to make this a blanket statement, because there's some people who make a less income than this and they do pretty good. But I would say you need to be close to making 6 figures or more in income. You need to have really good income. And then we want to have a very, very, very small amount. I would encourage you and love for you to have no consumer debt. But if you have a little bit and you have a high income, like if somebody's making 150, 250 plus, and they have a small credit card payment, or they had that they've been knocking out, it's just not quite done yet, but they got like $5,000 left, or they got a car payment that's 10,000, and you got, $15K a month coming in, and your payment on that is 500, and you're working to pay it off. I can't tell you not to buy real estate, because you're in a pretty strong financial position then. But the key is to be in a strong financial position. So limited consumer debt. You're going to want an emergency fund in place of 3 to 6 months, right? Just sitting there. And then any additional income that we have, we're going to put towards real estate. So if you have that extra money, right, you've got limited debt, you've got income coming in, then I think it's time to go buy real estate. That's why I think it's so important to continue working when you start real estate. One of the things that really bothers me and scares me that people are preaching this message is like quit your job and go on. You need to become an entrepreneur if you're gonna, live the life of your dreams. If you're gonna blah blah blah. Listen, the majority of people preaching that are working 60 plus hours a week and they're absolutely miserable. I'm serious. Like I'm not just saying that. They are working 60 plus hours a week and they're absolutely miserable because what they're doing is just to make money. They're not passionate about it, just so that they can show a lifestyle that they don't even care about. And so what I tell folks is stay at your job. If you hate your job, guess what? Here is a novel idea. Go get a different one. Oh my God. Oh my God. It's rocket science. No, just go get a freaking different job. Come on. What are we talking about? If you hate your job, go get a different job. Just because you hate your job doesn't mean you need to start your own company. When you've never even tried a side gig, you should try before you go starting a company. You should be doing it on the side before you ever dive into it. Number one, you don't even know if you're going to like it. Number two, the average small business makes it at tops 5 years. I think it's like 70% of them shut down after 2 years, another percentage after 3, and then they're all gone after 5. So statistically, you don't have a really good chance. And you don't even know if what you're doing you're going to like. And then let's talk from a real estate perspective. If you work a full-time job, you now can leverage that for loans. When you're starting out in this space, being able to show that you have this consistent income, you've had this consistent job when you're going to get loans for a bank just makes it that much easier. Now, if you're listening to this, you're like, I don't have that. I don't have the consistent job. I'm in my own company. I've only been around a year and a half. You can get funding for real estate too. We just need to make sure that we're in a strong position. And I just really try to encourage people, don't quit your job. Leverage that. Okay. Leverage that job. Then we come down to, well, I don't have enough time then. If I'm working, how can I do real estate? I would argue with you that you can't afford not to have enough time. You do have enough time. You have to make the time. Listen, I had the entire time that I've bought real estate, that I've built my personal brand, done all this stuff, raised a family of 4 kids, played the drums at church on Sundays. My dad's a pastor. We've ran ministries at the church, coached my kids' sports teams, traveled, done all these things to build fence at my house, have projects going on at my personal home, hang out with friends, hang out with family. I've been working a full-time job during all of this while also building wealth through real estate. And so I don't feel any sympathy for anybody who says I'm too busy. The only way I would feel a little bit of sympathy is if somebody is going through a major health crisis or you're a caretaker for someone who's going through a major health crisis and you don't have any family or anybody else around you to help. You want to say that? Then I'll listen to you. The rest of you guys who are just acting like you don't have the time, you have the time. We all have the same amount of time. And buying a couple rental properties or doing 2 to 4 flips a year, it does not take near the amount of time that you think it does. And it takes a limited amount of time that I know you can fit it into your existing schedule because I've been living that existing schedule for the last 11 years. And so you're going to make priorities for what you want to make priorities for. You want to hear a crazy statistic? The average American, this absolutely blew my mind. The average American watches 5 hours and 11 minutes of television per day. 5 hours and 11 minutes of television per day. And then we want to go and blame the system because the system's rigged against us. The government's rigged, which, hey, I don't love big government. Again, that's another topic for another day. It's not the system's fault most of the time. There are cases where we can make an argument it is. It's your fault. Take some personal responsibility for sitting in front of the goddamn TV for 5 hours and 11 minutes per day. You say, well, I don't sit in front of 5 hours. Are you doing it 2 hours? Or do you spend all day Saturday watching college football? Do you spend all day Sunday maybe watching NFL? How many hours of Call of Duty do you play on Xbox, PS5? I mean, we can sit here and go through, oh, it's not TV for you. It's novels that you're addicted to, getting a dopamine hit from that. Or maybe it's golf with your buddies. Oh boy, all the wives on here like, yes, sir, preach, preach, brother, preach. They're vices that have your attention. And you just haven't sat down and taken inventory of your life and looked in the mirror in a hard way to say, you know what? Dang, this Jaren dude, screw you, but you're right, Jaren. I hate to hear what you're saying, but you're right. The reason I'm calling you out is because I have to call myself out regularly. This is something that you have to fight daily. And so we have to find those hours that are getting eaten up by bullcrap. Look at your phone. How many hours do you spend on your phone? I guarantee you 90% of people won't listen to this right now, whether live or on the podcast. You spent 5+ hours looking at your phone daily this week. Was that on Zillow? If you want to tell me you're spending 5 hours on Zillow, then you'd be like, well, shoot, yeah, I'm buying a bunch of deals. You could just do nothing else. Don't drive around for dollars. Don't do any mailers. Don't do cold call. Don't have leads coming in. Just spend 5 hours on Zillow. You'll probably grab some deals. But the problem, you're scrolling. You're looking at my post. Now, if you're scrolling to look at my post and like it and comment, that's it. Just go to my profile, like all my content, make a post, whatever, comment on it, share it, and then get back off immediately. All right. That's the only reason you need to be on social media is for me. I'm totally joking. But you guys get the point. I'm not going to belabor this. Make time. Your future self is depending on you to make time. When I started building my real estate portfolio, my goal was to let me look as far in the future as I need to, and let's work backwards. Okay. And what I mean by that is I said, okay, how do I take care of myself at 70 years old and 80 years old? All right. All right. I need to buy, whatever the number was at the time, 5 properties, and by the time I'm 70, those properties will be worth, 369 to $2 million, and they'll be bringing in whatever X amount per year. How do I affect myself in my 60s? What do I need to do to make my life cush from a financial standpoint in my 50s, in my 40s, and then in my 30s? And so we have to take the time now, right? Sacrifice a little bit now. You're going to have to get up earlier. Guess what? You're going to have to get in your car. You're going to have to drive around looking for vacant or rundown properties on Saturdays, or when you get out of church on Sunday, you keep the family in the car, say, hey kids, we're going to ride around for properties. And you do it for an hour. Or you get on wholesalers list and you start looking at, you're saying, you know what? I'm going to look at one property a day. I'm going to analyze one property per day and get better at this and start making offers. And so, I encourage you, if you want to change your future, there's going to have to be sacrifices that are made today. There's 2 things that I hear. I interview on the Rich Dad Real Estate Show people all the time, and on my own show, I used to interview people on this show a lot, and I got to talk to a lot of millionaires, a lot of multimillionaires. And if you go back and you pulled a summary of all the podcasts I've done where I interviewed successful people, our team, quote unquote, kind of did this. We found 2 themes that they all said that led to success. Okay. And now there's a lot of details. There's a lot of discipline that goes in to all of this. Okay. So these 2 things aren't just the magic pill, but they're very important. Number 1 is networking. Okay. Taking the time to get around people and get in rooms of people who make what they're trying to do normal. So why real estate became so easy for me is because I put myself in a friend group where it was normalized. It was still scary at first. I think anytime you do anything new, it's going to be scary, but it was in the group that I immersed myself in. It became so common. Everybody was doing it that you were almost like the outcast, and they weren't going to shun me or anything, but you were almost the weird one for not doing it. And a little bit of good peer pressure is healthy for the soul. Today's woke culture, hey, watch out for everybody's feelings. They get a trophy. You don't want to make them feel bad. Well, I got news for you. A little bit of peer pressure with a little bit of shaming and a little bit of guilt for you acting like a clown is healthy. If not, you end up like a fruitcake. And so I was in a group to where it was normal. Everybody did it. This is what you do, just buy real estate. And so networking is huge, whether it's for real estate or business, whatever the case may be. You want to put yourself around a group of people who are already doing what you're doing. And then number 2 is delayed gratification. So networking was number 1 theme that comes up in all my calls, interviews. And number two is delayed gratification. These people said I had to have a little bit of pain now so I could have pleasure later. So I mentioned this in the last episode. I'm real enamored right now with psychology and neuroscience. There's unbelievably enamored with it. I've like bought 6 textbooks on neuroscience and I'm diving all in. But Lemke wrote a book, excuse me, Anna Lemke wrote a book called Dopamine Nation. Fantastic book. Talks about our current society's addiction to dopamine and how it's essentially destroying our lives. But she talks about a law, essentially, that the pain pleasure correlation within our brains and within our lives. So for any pain we experience, there's going to be rebound pleasure. And for any pleasure we experience, there's going to be rebound pain. And it's the same saying that you guys will hear me say a lot: pay now, play later, or play now, pay later. Dues are going to come due, right? At some point. They're going to come due at some point. You are going to feel pain. Let's just talk financially in your life. Do you understand me? Your finances, your assets or lack of, are going to cause you pain one way or the other at some point in your life. The question you have to ask is, am I okay with dealing with the pain now and making decisions that's going to cause me to have a lot of pleasure and a lot of peace of mind later? Or are you going to neglect having to go through the painful things of rearranging your schedule, of making time, and you're going to live the cush life of not, finances, they're not great, but they're not hurting me, I'm living a fine life. And then you reach to the latter part of your years of your life and you're like, bro, we don't have any money for retirement. And you see all your buddies, especially the ones who've made the really good decisions. They're 50 years old, they're 55, they're 60, bro, they don't go into work. They're retiring. Maybe they help coach the local sports team. They're traveling with their wife. They got 4 kids. And so they're traveling all over the country to their kids' house to hang out with their grandkids. And you are freaking greeting people at Walmart, hunched over like this. You can't stand up straight because you didn't have enough sense to go through the pain of going to the gym all your life. And you didn't have enough sense of going through the pain of eating right all your life. And so what happens? It freaking catches up with you. Now you stand up and your grandkids want to go outside and play with you. Oh, Sonny, I wish I could go play with you, but I'm getting old. These knees ain't what they used to be. Well, you should have seen me in high school. Or, Grandpa, can we go on a trip to Disney World? Well, we can't afford that kind of thing. We don't, we're simple around here. We just go out and have a bonfire, and that's how we like it. No, it's not freaking how you like it. It's because you made terrible decisions when you were younger, decided to live your, everything's going to be all right. Somebody will take care of me one day. And guess what? Somebody didn't take care of you one day. So now you're stuck. You're fat. You're out of shape, and you got no freaking money. And that's 99 probably % of America right there, what I just dictated. Now, I love those people, and I have tons of friends that make those decisions, and I'll love them, and I'll hang out with them, I'll be their friends. But there's a reason that at today, and it's going to sound conceited, forgive me, I don't mean this because I'm trying to get a point across. At 33 years old, I hear at least 5 times a week, some of us, we got to work. So some of us, Jaren, I ain't got your kind of money. I'm building a barn, but now I got to do a small barn. I ain't got your kind of money. Yeah, I got some of us, we got to do work. We got to do real work. I hear it all the time. And I'm like, I'm not even like saying anything to cause it, and I'm like, yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. You know why? And in my mind, I don't say this to him. I'm like, I just play it off. I'm like, yeah, you know why I'm not freaking having to grind every single second of my life? It's because from the age of 22, 23, I spent 5 years paying off debt while you were buying a freaking boat that you can't afford, and you had a $700 a month truck payment, and your wife needed to buy her stupid Suburban for $1,000 just so she can drive 2 kids to the darn car line, and you're going on 7 vacations per year. I was at my house eating at home, paying off $110,000 of debt while you were living the good life. You were enjoying the pleasure. I was going through pain. And then the 5 years after that, I took every dime I had, and within 2 years had bought 21 properties and continued to buy properties after that. Oh yeah. And in my career, I didn't settle for some blue collar job like I came out of college getting. Instead, I made myself more valuable to the marketplace, increase my income, because I knew if I could get into medical sales, that's the pinnacle of sales. So how do I do it? Well, I go to Centos because they have a great sales training program. I'd be a stud there. Then I go to this next thing in pharma, dominate there, work hard every day, and then maybe I can get medical sales, and boom, I broke in, increase income, paid off debt even faster, bought properties. And today at 33, I can kind of choose what my days look like. Not every day. Some days this dictates what I did today. I didn't choose to be on here today. It dictated because I wanted to come. I had a message to bring you guys. I guess I did choose, but I really wanted to get this off my heart and share it with you guys. And so you have a decision to make. Plain and simple. You have a decision to make. You can be the guy that makes jokes at the other guy that he doesn't work, and you ain't got the kind of money. He's got money. Yeah, he did that. He's got money, man. That man's got money. You see that house he lives in? He ain't got to do nothing. People like him make me sick. It's like, bro, you're a fool. You know the reason that man's got money? I'm not talking about me. I'm just talking about the guy next door who's got money. It's because he made decisions when he made good financial decisions when you were being a fool. And so you can either pay now or play later, play now, pay later. I want everybody in my world, in my realm. Part of why I have my brand is to teach you guys to make those tough decisions today so you can enjoy tomorrow. Thank y'all for tuning into this episode. If you're watching live or on YouTube, you can click or scan this little QR code up top. I have a free ebook. It is me and Robert Kiyosaki. Anybody ever read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? So I'm a real estate expert with their brand, and Robert and I have a free ebook called How to Buy Your First Investment Property. It'd also be helpful if you're trying to buy your next investment property. It's completely free. If you're watching live, you can scan the QR code, download it. And for those of you who listen on podcasts or listen later, we'll put it in the show notes. Appreciate you guys being here. I'm going to enjoy the snow tomorrow, and I will see you next time.